Boom, we're live. Well, welcome to another edition of Life is People. And, man, it's been a long time since we last had a conversation, sort of, first time this year. So before we go any further, how you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing great, man. How about yourself?
Man, I'm doing really good. It's been a busy last few months since we last spoken. And, wow, as we were sort of saying just before we went live, there's a lot, lots happening in this world. So, yeah, man. Well, before enough about myself, I mean, how's things been since I last spoken to you? I know you've been busy and doing things. So, sort of give me a brief overview of how things have been going on in your world.
Okay. I tell you, my day job been kicking my behind, so it's 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 taking all my free time. So it's a little hard to do shows now on my own, but I show up and do 5-10 minutes somewhere and be good.
Yeah, man, and you had a bit of a vacation as well. I know that, so that was quite good to get away from away as well, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, one
Matter
of
of
the
fact,
things,
oh, I'm
go
sorry.
on,
No, I
go
was
on.
gonna say I'm going to vacation in Puerto Rico this year, so that's a good thing.
Now, man, is Puerto Rico somewhere you've been before, or is it the first time?
No, I've been there before.
And what's it like as a place?
The country. Well, I said the it's not a country. It's a dadgum territory. But they don't really take care of Puerto Rico. It's not what you see on TV.
Oh, okay, okay. Now, one of the things I've always been fascinated by, man, and I can only again, I can only speak from my experience as a human being, and obviously, I'm white as I'm as white as the shirt I'm wearing. Now, do you, when you've gone to those places, how do you find that the locals are treating you? Because I mean, I've only ever gone to like South America, and they're like, "Wow, you're a white guy and brilliant," and I get that whole perception. But I mean, when you're going across, I mean, what sort of conversations do you get? And I can only ask you because it's not an experience I can ever go through.
Right. It's matter of fact. I've never been to another country that didn't treat black people as a whole better than regular people. Somehow we fit in.
Well, yeah, man. I think I think a lot of that is because, quite rightly, man, and I think a lot of that is because you tend to be. I was thinking about this the other day. I feel really sorry for a lot of white people who live abroad, man, because they're carrying. They could be the best people in the world, but they're going to carry the
Hmm.
cross for so many bad ills, man. Whereas,
Yes, sir.
you have that advantage walking with your colour scheme, brother. You don't get all that crap, do you?
You
So
do not.
it's a bit of a.
We fit
Uh,
right in, man.
Now, one of the things, man, and I know it's sort of like a bit of a sharp left turn, man, but I have to sort of bring this up with you. And again, I'm sitting from this side of the pond, man, when I heard about all this, I obviously you're the first person that came into my head, and that's obviously what's been going on with the whole police shootings down your part of the world, man. So, from someone who was there, tell me what how did that impact your life, and how express your thoughts about it, because you're more on the scene than anyone I've ever spoken to so far.
Okay. Nothing really has changed. Uh, there's always been a perception with black people about the police just not doing what we think they ought to do or how they ought to do it. But in light of what's happened, uh, it hasn't turned on any new lights. However, it's brought up the topics that people have been fighting since the 50s and 60s. They say you can't fight City Hall. Well, the police are City Hall. It's very. I have friends who are police. We don't necessarily hang out, but I don't have any disdain for what they do. I want them to come home safe every day, just like you or any other friend. However, you can't be yourself around police if you are yourself. You know what I mean? You just can't be. And their perceptions of things are marginal, I would say, because they were taught a certain way, as opposed to the way they grew up. You know, you just can't act the same, and it's depressing to the point of people are now taking sides. You know, if something goes wrong and you dial 911, who do you want to show up? One of your buddies or somebody who can fix the problem? Right.
No, exactly, man. And I'm fascinated by this whole thing because, and again, someone who can speak upon it here, because it's I can you know, my reflection of the authorities over here is completely different to your reflection. And you know, you spoke upon it there, and you mentioned about, you know, you know, police officers and stuff like that. That's a what percentage issues, I think this is quite important to sort of tackle upon. What percentage of police do you think are actually full on, you know, full on racist, as in they can't stand black people, you know, they've got a real issue about black guys with different skin? And how much is that percentage do you think, of the police force? Because that's a very good sort of point to start with, because I think there's a lot of steps up, but I'm fascinated at that very base level. What percentage of the ones you know or encountered, or just your perceptions, do you think are rotten to the core in that sense of what we're talking about?
Okay. I would think very few are rotten to the core. However, we as people have that gang mentality. So if these group of cops are doing X, Y, and Z, if I'm gonna fit in, I gotta do X, Y, and Z. Or I become the outcast or the different person, you know, and that can only create problems for themselves.
Yep. And this is one of the things I really want to sort of dig upon and really sort of, you know, kind of maybe find an answer to all this, because you know, you hear a lot of these sound bites, for want of a better word, and people are throwing out numbers and they throw out these platitudes and stuff, and I just try to see, like everything else, I think try to see everything from everyone's point of view. And I think one of the things that must be, I got to the point of thinking, can any human being be a police officer? Can you throw anybody into a situation where they're going out and seeing the worst of humanity constantly? They're going out to people they know that are going to come and attack them. You know, is anybody suited to that? Can any? Because, and the thing about, when you actually think about it, that most police officers are not. This is just a general overview, but most police officers aren't the most intelligent of people. So they're you know, they're put into the most stressful situations, and then they're reacting in certain ways. And you add into that the core of what you're talking about, and that's what I'm saying. I think a lot of it maybe just have to do with the job itself. You know, maybe again, I'd love to hear your thoughts. We can.
Right. It's not a glamorous job. I remember growing up, they asked you in kindergarten or first grade what you want to be. And some kids say police officer, fireman, the typical answers. But it's impossible to, I would say it's impossible to have a positive outcome if you don't have a plan. So if we're going to go down and stop looting, we need a plan. We don't just need to block the street and start accosting people. We need a plan. Herd people in a certain direction. Those who shouldn't have, you shake them down. And, you know, if it's nothing major or dangerous, send them on about their way. But the mentality of a policeman, you got to think they're the only ones who really carry guns like the old West. We as citizens, we can carry guns, but we don't practice and quick draw and all that good stuff. You know, by the time we finish fumbling with the gun, the cop already shot 5 or 6 times. And that's really where regular people won't allow themselves to embody what a policeman does.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that the next sort of layer that you have to add into all this sort of, you know, this very complicated sort of issue and situation is the fact of, I mean, again, how much a percentage of what the police are doing on a general day-to-day level is basically just glorified tax collection. You know, they're going out and they're stopping people for drugs, they're stopping people for, and it's all just to revenue collect for. So,
Yeah.
even if you go in, I'm just take this. I'm trying to take this completely from the other point of view. And you know, you are that good-hearted cop, and you think, okay, I want to be what we imagine the best of police to be, you know, the guy who's going
Mhm.
around protecting and serving, and you're put into that. And if you're going in with that kind of mentality and mindset, like you said, you've already spoken upon what the situation's like, the people you're mixing with, already the situation you're going to, and then you add on top of that basically your job today every day is just going out and saying, well, you need to fill this criteria, that criteria, you need to fill
Mhm.
this revenue in. So the whole thing really, and that's the whole thing, and that's why I'm fascinated to talk about it, because it seems like the issue at the moment is just like, okay, let's just get rid of all the police officers, and that will be. We need, like you said, like you quite eruditely spoke upon. I mean, we to deal with this and talk about this issue, it takes a lot of less black and white and more, you know, intricate and you know, a complex thought process, and which is basically we'll go,
Mhm.
okay, we could clear a lot of this problems just by looking at a lot of the laws. I mean, for instance, if you just took the one drug law away, how much of the problems would that solve? And that's
Oh
just,
man.
that's not about, you know, just, you know.
Hmm. Hmm. You know, uh you say the revenue stream. Uh, that's always going to be there, and that's what people. Cops don't make a lot of money. Cops don't have a lot of college. Cops don't this, don't that, don't that, but they do leave the house every day fearful that they may not make it home. I go to work and I know I'm coming home unless a heart attack or something, you know. But I don't have to worry about anybody luring me anywhere, shooting me, or you know, things that cops obviously go through. So those guys live on the edge. They have to. They have to.
And this is one of the things that, again, it seems to be lost in this whole just shouting match between one side and the other about this whole issue. But you know, again, and it's maybe it's like a lot of things, because it's a difficult issue and people don't want to talk about it, they shy away from it. But what is the systemic root of this? I mean, you know, okay, we're talking about, you know, human beings being killed by police officers or whatever, but what is the root of this? We spoken then about, you know, the prisons and what they're full of, but
Hmm.
you know, why are we in 2016, man? And this is, I mean, I kind of, this widens up, but there seems to be a mentality. When I grew up and listened to, you know, particularly the music and the films that came out of America, it was all out, particularly from the, you know, the ghettos. It was like, get out of this place and then make your money. That was all about the rap style. It was all get out, get. But now it
Yep.
seems to be, nah, no, no, no. We like this lifestyle. No, let's glorify the ghettos. Let's make, and
Sure.
that to me has been a very strange mentality that's changed in the mindset. Not that anything's changed in any other way, because they've been pumping money into everything, and it hasn't changed
Mhm.
anything fundamentally. So it's got to be more a mindset.
It is. We all are set in our ways to an extent. The ghetto is nothing fabulous. I'm sure you know that. However, there is life in the ghetto. The people who have not are used to having not, and they're just as happy as the people that have. Now, that may involve a little extracurricular activities that aren't necessarily 100% legal, but uh, that's the associated risk, I think, that we share with police and anyone else. You have a fantastic job, family, house, wife, all this good stuff. Now you get picked up for dope. All that's gone. That's the equivalent of being financially dead if you're sitting in a prison somewhere and you didn't hurt anybody. You just happen to have a couple of 100 pounds of meth, you know.
Well, this goes back. This goes back to maybe sort of like full circle to what we're talking about, because we spoke upon this in a previous conversation. But the police officer in Top Cat, you know, the classic Mr. You know, PC Dibble, he was that, and it was kind of like you said, it was kind of like the whole sort of gist about it was he was the police officer doing it, walking the beat, and they were having a little scams behind his back, and it was all
Mm-hmm.
it was all this kind of like this civil kind of, but it was civil, you know, and
Right.
but and it's kind of what I'm trying to say is that all this is how we should all be living in theory, because even in essence of what laws are, all laws are basically should be about what we all agree on. And like you just spoke upon so eruditely and said, as long as someone's not harming another human being,
Mm-hmm.
if that was just and that was just the general rules, then the police officers wouldn't be in this situation. And this is the thing. It's all about down to, like you say, this. It's getting down to that point of view and going, wait a minute, because whatever side you're on, whether you're a police officer or whether you're a normal citizen, all laws should always be there. All rules, all civilizations, what we want to call it, should be about what we all agree on. And this is the thing at the moment. There's, like you said, we're filling prisons and we're throwing men in cages for smoking a plant or doing something to themselves, or what they choose to do in their own bedrooms and their own. These are, and it's ridiculous that we're in 2016. And what I find fascinating is that we've got to a point of my generation when we were, in our 20s, we were all turning around going, fuck the system, get over the man. Now kids are all out there shouting more regulations, bigger government, and it's what's happened? I don't understand what's happened. I've been trying to dig and trying to find out what the kids of today are they less angry than us? Maybe it's just because they're more weak. I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think has changed this mindset in the last 20 years?
They're more tolerant, I would say, because just like we're doing now, you can actually lose yourself in other activities like social media and things like that. And while we're on Facebook and Snapchat, we're really escaping our lives. To like a person's picture or something like that, it takes us away from what we normally do. That being said, we all are two people, whether we want to believe it or not. You have your in the house guy, and then you have that outside persona, whether you're the tough guy, the drug dealer, the police, the whoever. And a lot of people, like we said, are not very well educated on anything. We see it on TV or the internet. We swear that it's true. We don't investigate anything. And that being said, the cops, man, here come the cops, man. They finna start doing this, this, and this. How do you know what the cops are about to do? You got a damn crystal ball hidden somewhere. However, you ever notice, even you, if you're not messing up when the cop drive down the street, you barely even notice it's a cop. But if you got a beer in your hand or a blunt in your mouth, now you know the cop's coming and you
Yeah.
So until we can get over the I wouldn't say get over it, adjust the tolerance level. I'm not mad that they're killing green people because I'm not green. But when they start killing black people, now there's not necessarily a problem, but there's a sense of I better watch out, even though I'm doing nothing wrong.
Yep. And I think that's a very fascinating times, like you say, we speak upon that, because I always think you said then about how we live in a world full of, want of a better word, idiots. But at times I really struggle with things, and I think I can't believe. And you're talking about social media; it's a perfect example. You can go now and and stick on YouTube or on Google, and there's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people trying to convince us that the world is flat. And I'm like, dude, we've got over that 500 years ago, and but in this enlightenment age, when we've got all this information, like you said, we're breeding idiots. It's ridiculous.
Lazy is what it is. If the video doesn't have pretty women in it and music, we don't sit and watch it. Notice, even I bet where you live, if you look at your local news broadcast, there are no ugly people on the news because people won't listen to ugly people. So if you got some ugly politician, I won't call any names yet, but you got spewing nonsense, nobody's gonna pick up on that.
No, this is. I mean, it goes back to what you're just saying then. I mean, I think you mentioned then about this, and I think it's the Orwellian idea. The use of language. I think it's this idea of tolerance that's killing us all. I think because it's out of this tolerance, what they call tolerance. you know, people have the freedom to say anything, the freedom to do anything is being lost in that tolerance bubble, which I think is a fascinating area that we've got to, like you say, that we've almost backed ourselves into a corner. And like I said, what I do find fascinating with all this information around, and like you said, but there's so much of it, but yet we're still go back to ideas and thoughts and stuff. I mean, it makes me laugh, and this is like you were speaking upon, because it's the internet and all this. They're just full of all these ideas, and you can hear that Jesus lived in Saturn and he was a computer programmer, and it's just overload of information, and I think that's fair enough, mate. But it's like you say, when you actually hear serious, and I think I can't believe it. I can't believe I'm in my 40s and I'm hearing people trying to tell me that the Earth is flat. And I'm like, dude, I've been on a plane. I've seen it. You know, it's unreal. It's unreal. Dude, you've been out on the seas, man. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Hey, you know, a good example of that is about the internet. We use the internet mostly for entertainment. Now, when we do research things on the internet, we get into that mentality of the encyclopedia, if that makes sense to you. The encyclopedia is a book, it's a reference book, but that one book is not going to be updated. However, on the internet, everything is updated to the point of where if you are just a Fox News person, you don't care what they say on CNN and MSNBC. So you're not going to go out and say, hey, what the hell they mean the sun is green? That's bull. You know, CNN says blue and this side says orange, but no research. So we're going to say, hey, man, I'm going with the blue sun. I don't give a shit what you go with.
Yep, you're right. And I mean, that speaks upon two elements of the culture we live in at the moment. One is that very thing you spoke upon, that we've all got, you know, an ocean that's a centimetre wide of, you know, deep of knowledge, but nobody's got a mile. Nobody's that mile deep. Nobody sits and has these conversations anymore. Nobody wants to spend the time to do anything, and that doesn't apply. That doesn't only apply to knowledge. That applies to anything. If you want to do something, you've got to put some graft in, dude. You've got to put in, whether it's want to be an artist, a comedian, a musician, a runner. I don't care what it is. You've got to put. And this is the culture we live in now. We live in this world of like now everything's instant, which is, I think, really dangerous. I think it's really dangerous because I don't worry about. And when people go, oh, I'm really worried about the planet. I don't care. The world will go on, and human beings will survive. I mean, dude, I don't care if the meteor hit the planet now. I know humans survive, and the people that are going to survive are the warrior ones that don't have all this shallow stuff. They're the guys in the Amazon and Africa, and they've got wisdom that goes way back, which is another fascinating one. And do you know, it fascinates me, and I'm more thinking of that with all this technology that's been woken up, and we're becoming almost gods amongst the men that we live upon. And yet the cultures that have lived the longest, they have kept their culture going through two means: oral tradition and artwork. Right. And I think it's fascinating. I think that's fascinating that the two things that we've thrown away in our world of talking to each other and appreciating, you know, like art or the beauty. The cultures, the Aborigines, the Africans, that's the one thing they've kept going. And I think it's a real duality, because if the meteor hits the Earth, all the floods are going to happen. We've built all our cities on the coast, so they're all going to be wiped out. And the knowledge in the middle, like you say, middle America, man. Good luck to building America out in the middle of America, dude. Yeah. Some people in that part of America don't even understand what a train is. Right. So, you know what I mean? But the people I'm saying that will go on will be the ones that have got that oral tradition. And I just think it's fascinating. It's this duality that we've got. And it's what you were saying upon. We've got this world where we've got all this information, and like you say, especially social media, man. Social media is this whole thing. And I'm particularly something else I wanted to talk to you about, which is social media, because we live in this age where we've got all this information. Everyone's got a green light. And this whole world now, like you said, and this tolerance. So it's like, I've been offended, green light, boom, I'm going to go after him. Boom, I'm going to go after him. And it's it's so corrosive to an empire. And it's the old phrase, and Voltaire said it, that an empire, when it's building up, goes up in wooden shoes as it goes up the ladder, and it slides down in silk slippers. And that's exactly where America is at the moment. You're a culture of silk slippers on the slide, and you're getting upset, and you're not getting back to the hard work and the wooden clogs that got you up to the top.
Right. It's so much. I would say, as far as the cultures and things go, uh, those guys keep it simple, and that makes for that village raising that kid, because we all keeping it simple. We all playing by the same rules. We're not going to make this kid any better because he has this symptom or this disease. We're not going to talk bad about this guy because he's a little slow. Uh, Instead of helping, we jump on social media and say, "Hey, this knucklehead did this," or "His kids can't do this," and "Why don't your baby mama do this?" Instead of saying, "Hey, let me help you with this, man. I know a program that deals with exactly this. Call this guy." We won't do that though. That's too much like right. But we will exploit it now because we get likes and emojis and all kinds of shit that you won't find in a damn encyclopedia.
Man, you're right, dude. And this plays back into what I'm doing, and I'm always struck by this. When when you see people on social media and they're getting upset by, he called me fat, he called me this, whatever, anything, and I think, dude, there's people just on another part of the rock who at 13 are kicked out of their tribe and told not to come back until they bring an out with them. And it's like, not giving a gun. Oh no, they're giving a stick. A
Right,
13-year-old, and like, go out there. Or there's some tribes in that, in the Amazon where, to be initiated at 13, you've got to have your hands put in a glove full of bumblebees that sting
right.
the shit out of your arms. Or
Yeah,
and you think this is going on right now on our planet, and they must look over us, like I say, in America, and hear these people and think, what? Just seriously, what? Because and I always feel like, I wish, for once, I'd just have to take some of these people and just drop them in the middle of the Congo and say, go on then, see how long you can last in that world.
yep,
Because I know if I took a kid from the Congo and I dropped him in Georgia, or I dropped him in New York, he'd be fine. Oh, he'd probably
yeah,
be
yeah.
he'd be raking the money. He's got thoughts and, so, entrepreneur skills and all the things you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
Drop some fat kid from, I don't know, San Francisco, who's whinging about, whatever, and you drop him in the Congo, he ain't gonna last a week, dude.
Nope. And we all see this. I know that's an extreme example, but we see this. High school, college are not for everybody. You have to want to be there. You have to apply what you learned yesterday, and that's a task for most people. Uh, what's not a task for most people is hitting that little app and getting on social media. You only have to log in once, you know, and you could type pretty much what you want. I hate you. I'm gonna blow this up. I'm gonna do this to the cops. You can type what you want, and that's a good thing, but it's a bad thing. People are going to use it and interpret it the way they were taught. And since we all use different filters, we're all going to be way in left field somewhere. You asked me earlier how people in the world usually treat me when they meet me. One good example, I was in Germany, and there was an American there who was drunk as a skunk. And, and he was attempting to get this Polish guy to show him on his map on the phone where he was from. The only problem is the Polish guy was Russian, and the Russian guy kept telling him, "Hey man, I'm not Polish. Leave me alone." But because he was drunk, he kept saying, "Oh, the hell with that. I want to show me where you live," and Russian and Polish this and Polish that. So the guy was about to choke him to death. And I asked the guy, I said, "Hey man, you're not gonna beat him up because he's drunk, is you? Let me buy you a drink. Calm down." And the American guy, being a typical, I don't know, shithead, kept saying, "Hey man, I don't need you in my business. I can take care of it." And I was like, "Nah, no, you can't." So to keep him from getting murdered, I probably stepped out of line and stepped into place. But when you have more of that and people being made aware of situations, the tough guy kind of sort of backed down because now 20 people were watching him attempt to fight this drunk guy. And even his friends pulled him away, saying, "Man, you can't beat him up. If he was sober, that's different. But he's drunk, and you still gonna beat him up? What kind of person are you?" I can imagine the conversations they had in Russian when they left. But that goes to show people in Russia are like people in Georgia, California, anywhere else.
Oh yeah, man. I think we could both know that from our experiences, and that's the thing about this thing called life. I'm old enough, and the more and more I go through this life, yeah, there's nothing much divides us all. We're all just meat machines, getting up in the morning, doing what we have to do, struggling, getting through. If we get through to that end of the evening, we're like, yeah, we made it for another day, and that's the reality for most people, wherever
Mm-hmm.
you are. And you know the other thing about it, and this is the thing, this is why I think it's very distorted about the culture we live in at the moment, because 9/10 of this world, all over the place, people are getting on, living exactly what we're just saying. They don't care. They're just getting along with each other. That's how we get along. That's why we're not all
Mm-hmm.
like we were 500 years ago with swords and walls and thinking, oh, we're going to attack everyone that comes over our hill. We've got to that point, but and that's all over the place. And this is what I'm saying about this distortion about the world we live in, and it's sort of saying, oh, that's everywhere, and they're highlighting all the
Mm-hmm.
negative issues and making up that's the world, and it's not, because the rest we all get on fine. And when you say people, when you hear it's a bit of a cliche, but people say the wake up moment. I think that is the wake up moment when you do realize, do you know what, we're all just the same, and we stop just looking at ourselves and putting ourselves in boxes. And it's
Mm-hmm.
a very cliche. People say, oh, I don't live like that. I don't live like that. But you're no dude. I mean, I've lived in South America. I know what it's like to live amongst people that, in that essence, are nothing. Yeah, but all the people that say, oh, I don't feel like that. Yeah, and then they do, because
Yeah.
it's all platitude. And this is what I'm sick of in this world. I'm sick of people just sending out these virtual signals. The virtue signals here, virtue signals here. It's what you're talking about. The green lights everyone's doing, and it's all these from people that. It's like someone telling you, sending out these virtual signals and saying, "Oh, I know what's best for you, J.R. If I could do this, and it's like, how patronising do you sound? How racist do you sound? And
Right.
have you ever sat down and talked to me as a human being? No, but you'll sit there and you'll go and this is what to me is distorted about the culture we live in, because it's a few people making all this noise. It doesn't represent all of us.
Right. And our and it's funny you say that. Our whole political model is centered upon what you just said. Why, I don't know, but I seen a poll that said 60% don't like this, that, or the other. Nobody's ever asked me anything. You know, who the hell are you talking to, and where are you finding these shitheads, in a cave somewhere? You know, uh, right in my neighborhood. They'll say, well, we raising this, so we're gonna build this because all the people want it. Yeah, that's me shit, man. And I gotta pay taxes on it, and then I gotta drive around because you tore up the street to fix it, and blah blah. So us as people, whatever makes us comfortable right then is what we stick with. Right then, I would never shit talk my police friends behind their backs or to their faces. I would rather just not deal with them. When we see each other, we say hi and we keep right on walking. That's better than generalizing. Here they come. They gonna check us. They gonna do something. No, they not. They don't. They don't care about your ass.
Yeah, it speaks upon what you were saying earlier on. You mentioned earlier on when you said about that we've all got those two different types. There's the exterior type, and then there's that person that you know to yourself. And one of the things about this is one of the things that's been lost in this world of what we're talking about, or this this tiny little bubble we're talking about, is like you say, when everyone gets a green light to go out, it's just everyone's forgotten the idea of like, well, okay, the word seething. Do you know what? You can sit back, hold your teeth, and go,
Mhm,
and you
mhm.
just move on. And
Yep.
everybody's forgotten that. Everyone's like, no, I haven't. I want to shout and tell everybody about how badly. And it's like there's a wisdom. And again, I don't know what your parents were like when you're the generation. But that's exactly what they did. That old school lot. That's what they did. I mean, I'm fascinated by this because of where I'm in Europe and stuff and the times and stuff. But I my grandfather and people like that, and they don't ever speak about what went on in the Second World War. They sit and they just don't. Now our lot would be like, oh, and they'd be having weeks off work and letting everybody know and have TV shows and it's
Mhm,
there's that. That's what I'm saying. It's that skill or that old lost word of just sitting back and having it seethe inside you and go, okay, and then you walk away and you go and play
mhm.
tennis or something or whatever it may be to get rid of that thing. But
Yep.
in the meantime, like you were just saying in Germany, nobody's been hurt, and the whole situation's been calmed down. And that just takes a bit of what we're
Mhm,
talking about. It takes a bit of skill, I suppose, and a bit of something that's gone missing from a general, I think, part of the culture of the ability just to take a deep breath, which is something. I
mhm.
don't know what it's like in your part of the world, but it seems to be that the idea of taking a breath back, sitting, thinking about it, that seems to have just disappeared. I know it's over here. I'm sure, with America being 10 times faster than it's over here, that must be the culture over your part of the world.
Everything has we've lost compassion. That's really what it is. Compassion doesn't pay money for the most part. Uh, if you like with this show you're doing, I'm certain if enough people saw you and saw you using this as a positive, you'll be getting sponsors that you don't even want. Take this money, but wear this shirt, or take this and put this sign behind you. We've lost compassion for that. However, if I can smash you in the face and it makes me feel just as good as taking a deep breath, if I think I can win, I'm gonna probably smash you in the face because it makes a better show. Uh, Matter of fact, I can even get one of my buddies to record me smacking you so we can put it online later and laugh about it more. Get a couple of 100,000 hits, make it go viral, and you be instantly become the guy who got the blue blazers smacked out of him for no reason, and nobody would care but you. Nobody would
And
care.
you're right, and I think this sort of ties into the culture that you're speaking of, because that idea, just to, like you say, just to rush to that rather than taking the step back, and that it all ties in with this intolerance. It ties in with everything, and I think one of the things about where I don't know where we are and where it sort of frustrated me that we've got to this point is that the ones that are pushing this most, they're the most luckiest generation on this planet
Yeah.
Earth, man. And that's what really frustrates me. And I don't want to be over generational, but it is. You see, if I know if I'm going on Twitter and it's somebody whinging about something, I know it's not going to be someone my age because they're usually not on Twitter and
Right.
social media. And it's what gets me is like the generation who've had the most, who've got them in the countries that have got the most freedom, America and this part of the world, are
Mm-hmm.
the ones that are whinging and complaining the most. And and I think it's something that's why I like to talk to someone like you. I've talked because you understand of what it's like to go around the world, and people forget how lucky they are just to be born. All right, America may have its problems, but dude, would you rather be born in America or in the middle of Congo? Which one would you seriously? And
Right.
this is what people forget.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you have all of this. I spoke with my 9-year-old son yesterday in reference the internet. We talked, and yesterday was their first day of school, and he's happy to be in the fourth grade. And he came home and he had a couple of worksheets to do for homework. And I said, hey, good thing you know how to do those, because uh, if you didn't, you could run to the internet. I used to have worksheets that my parents weren't savvy enough to help me with. So, what was I to do? But that leads to us being spoiled as well, because this internet thing whatever that is, it allows us to be exactly who we want to be. We can be 500 pounds, but on the internet, we're the greatest athlete who missed the Olympics trial because we showed up late, and nobody could tell us any difference, you know. Uh, that being said, as well, we no longer have to fight our own battles anymore. We can secretly uh, IM or send a message to Tim and say, hey, when we do the show live, I want you to hammer this person I'm gonna bring on as a friend. And if you were that type of person, you could hammer them and embarrass them, and people all the world will see it. And that person is left feeling, I got to get revenge. Uh, I'm getting him. He live across the world, but I'm gonna kick his ass if I find him. You know,
Yeah.
and that's the way we live, man.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I mean, technology is a neutral. I mean, that's what I'm saying. We've spoken upon all the negatives it can be useful, but hey, man, this stuff is curing cancer. It's building
Yeah.
water wells in Africa. It's doing so much good in this planet. But this is what I found fascinating because technology is a neutral, and at the moment, I view how America and how we are over here. We're a bunch of like kids. We're a bunch of like kids who've just got this new toy, and we're like,
New toy.
oh, and we're just running around banging and shooting. But you know, in essence, the toy that we're actually doing with has got so much more uses than what we're using it for. And hopefully, this is where I wanted to explore with you. I mean, uh, to me, there's two paths we can go down. We can either just be carry on being like kids, and that inevitably, like you said, it escalates and it goes to bar fights, and then you've got countries
Mm-hmm.
fighting countries, and bang, you
Mm-hmm.
know, we've got World War III going on in Europe, and that's one dark path. Or the other one, we do hopefully evolve as a species, as we are as humans, and use this tool for the other side. And I struggle with this every day because, like, I think you really hit the nail on the head when you said this. We're we're so team orientated, and when you add that team orientation with your team blue, your team red, and that's it,
Mm-hmm.
and it speaks upon what we said before. Because once you become team minded, you don't want to hear any facts that don't agree with your team. So then,
Right.
for you, just then to me, whenever I hear anyone on any team like that, I'm like, well, you're no different from the fundamentalist religious person because you're just
Mm-hmm.
in a belief system. And I think it's,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'm alone on this planet, but I every year I try to think, okay, what's one of my fundamental ideas? And I'm going to see if I can break it down and change my mind about it. I like to change my mind on things on a regular
Yeah.
basis. I think it's a really healthy position to be in. But again,
Uh-huh.
this is not being taught. This isn't being taught, and I'm not saying it's a responsibility of teachers and stuff like that. But this is, it's not even being taught in homes. The
Right.
parents aren't teaching their kids to be like that. They're saying, "Oh, there you go, just sit down in front of the TV," or,
Mm-hmm.
there's your Xbox, or anything. That's not and not to do this, and what chance they got? They're starting off with the kids like this, and then they just breed into
Right.
this team mentality. And before you know it, you're 65, you're sitting on the couch and go, "Where did my life go? What happened?"
I have friends, good friends, that I grew up with and been knowing 30, 40 years, have never left Georgia. Big as this world is, they've never left this state, and they think that's okay. They say, well, uh, Arizona has a dry heat. They don't have humidity like we do here. But it's still hot. But unless you've been there, you can only generalize. Uh, Same with this social media. The areas that have it and have high speed this and iPad this, they can't respect it because everyone doesn't have it yet. We only respect something once everybody is on an even playing field and we're trying to outdo them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Isabella.
And this is what I was trying to, this is what fascinates me about these dual paths we've got going on because, and again, I love to hear your reflections from being a Georgia man, but the Pokemon Go phenomenon, man, that to me is like I can't believe it, and I love to know what it's like because I live in the middle of the Highlands of Scotland, so I don't get to see a lot of kids. But when I have come across it, it's just I'm like, what? It's not about a fire about. I saw about the other day. I went up the top. I was walking up the top of this hill, and there's all these kids. They're all walking around with their phones, all looking for this Pokemon, whatever. And I thought, why can't you just put your phones away? If you're into this whole thing of just going collecting stuff, do you know, why don't you go bird watching?
Mhm. Yeah,
And then
yeah.
it's fascinating. You've got kids up in the middle of nature or whatever, and just staring into this little thing to go and collect something. And do you know what really gets me about that, man? And you would know that this one, man. That was a really smart move by Nintendo, man, because they played that card 20 years ago, got all that generation addicted
Mhm.
to the cards, and then 20 years down the line went boom. And again, this is what I'm trying to. Again, I'd love to know what your reflections of it is in George, because I, I just don't know where that one's going to go. I don't know whether this is going to be just another ice bucket challenge. It's all going to be forgotten about in a year's time, or we're going to sit in a year's time where people are never leaving their homes and they're just obsessed in this whole new world, because this and virtual reality is going to open a whole new doors, no?
Oh wow. Yeah, you're right. It's fascinating because I think Pokemon Go. You don't have to be a fan of Pokemon. Uh, you don't have to be attractive. You don't have to have the best phone. Uh, it's sort of it's sort of like a cold, the human cold. You get it. If you don't sneeze on someone, more than likely it won't spread. But when you got people walking in the street looking at their phones and bumping into other people and people setting people up to get robbed and all this stuff, man, that's just nuts. But Pokemon, like you said, they hit on something and they came back with it 20 years later. I, I hope that type of thought process continues. Not necessarily the game aspect of it, but something that will unite people of different everything to a common goal. And Pokemon Go seems to be that common goal right now.
What,
Uh,
do you know what I found?
Now I was
No,
gonna say
do you know what I found?
they could fix Pokemon Go by making it like before you can capture the Pokemon, you got to answer this trivia question about history or do a math problem. That'll stop a lot of people from damn playing it.
Well, I think it's fascinating because do you know, and again, this is just a reflection of what I've seen. I mean, I was walking past. I mean, obviously, I'm up in the Highlands of Scotland. There's churches around here that are, 5, 6, 7, 800. Really old churches.
Old
And
church,
there was,
yep.
because obviously in the Pokemon Go game, as I understand it, the churches in general tend to be gyms for these Pokemon things. So there was all
Mhm.
these kids all around this church, and I thought, and the one thing that got me instantly thinking, they're missing a trick here. The vicar, he's not opening this place up. He should be inviting them in. And I think it's
Mhm.
fascinating because it's like I saw all these kids for the first time ever sitting in a churchyard, and I thought
Right,
the guy whose basic business this is, he's got closed doors. I just thought it's
right.
hilarious.
And they're using this stuff as marketing. What they haven't told us is how much Nintendo is making on the back channel. Uh, you could
Ooh.
call and say, "Hey, I want my home to have 50 Pokemons around it," and you pay a little fee. They program the Pokemons in your area. All of a sudden, you have a yard sale. So while people are looking for Pokemon, they're picking through your garbage and making you money. So it's
Well, yep.
probably some thought process like that involved, I bet.
See, I mean, I get maybe the other side of the dual side of that. I was just thinking exactly the opposite application for that. I was thinking, okay, let's take this situation, this scenario. Girlfriend splits up with boyfriend. Boy, they go to different houses. One of them has an issue with the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Gets a program, make programs a Pokemon Go that's most, the monster that's worth loads, and puts it right over her house, and then just
Right.
everyone's just surrounding her house, and she can't leave it. I mean, what she? This is. I mean, we joke about this stuff, but this could be really, really real in a
Yeah.
couple of few years time, because it's like I'm going to take revenge out on her, and I'm going to put that in her house. And I mean, what someone going to do? I mean, what you're going to send loads of 10 police officers to let you out your own
Right.
house? And
You don't
you
you don't
go on.
want to call the cops now.
Exactly. Exactly, and we go back full circle. But again, this all goes back to what you were saying. It's how it's that compassion. It's the technology, what we do with it, and that's like it is with everything. And that it goes back to even what we started this conversation with. And I know it's an old cliche line, but guns don't kill people. People do, and it's the tool is just the tool. It's you can, what I mean. And I think that's one of the things that makes there's no more proof of that. That guns don't kill people. That people do, and if we take all the guns away, we won't have this. Well, what's going on in Europe? They're getting in trucks and just
Right,
plowing people down in the streets. It doesn't
right.
matter if the intent's there. A bar of soap
Mhm.
could be a weapon. It doesn't. And
Right.
this is like we were saying. It's all, and it's where it's the internet, where it's a gun, whatever it is. It's all about. They're just a neutral. It's what we do with them, and that's when it goes back to. I think really, like you were saying earlier on, it goes back to your little kid. It goes back to. I'm going, okay, right. If I can just hopefully guide into the point where he's got through to it, and he's got some 20s, and he's on his own way. Maybe that is the biggest achievement we can all do as human beings. It's not the Ferraris, it's not the fame, it's not the status, it's not anything else. Maybe it's just down to the simple things, as you were saying: good health, people around you that love you, and if you can just have known that you've got someone that you love that's just going into the future. That maybe that's the three simple things that we all just need. That we've all forgotten in this world.
We have, and that goes back to simple like cartoons. Uh, they had a Bugs Bunny is my favorite actor, but uh, in one of his episodes, they had these buzzards. The mama buzzard had 4 or 5 babies, and she kicked them out the nest and said, "Hey, go bring dinner or whatever." And one guy was refusing to leave. He was like, "No, no, no." And his mom stuck her foot in his behind and kicked him out the nest. And to her, when they started to bring food home, she was the proudest person on earth because she had done her job. What they do after that, you can't control. But if you can get them to that release point to where they can fly out of the nest, you've done it.
Yeah, and this goes back to what we were saying earlier on. See, this whole conversation that's not needed in the Amazon or in Africa, because they do what they've got to go and live and fend for themselves because they're in the raw. But it's one of the things again. This is another one. There's so many white elephants in the room, but this is where you need the yin and the yang and the parents and the mother and the dad. Because yes, fair enough. The female element, she's very nurturing. She's your 4-year-old brings a little picture of a horse home, and she's going to go, "Oh, that's brilliant. That's the best horse I've ever seen." The
Right.
dad's going to go, "No, go away. Go. That's not. You'll learn how to draw a horse." But that's needed because life isn't like this, and we're living in this increasingly, for want of a better word, feminized culture where it's like, well, it doesn't matter, you can be anything. And real life ain't like that. Like you were just saying then, real life's about you've got to face the adversities, and that needs both elements. And you need to be told that okay, sometimes you need that hug, and sometimes you need the kick up the arse. And it doesn't.
Right.
That's not. And that to me, this is one of the things. It's been sort of wrapped into this whole masculine patriarchy, feminism, and it's not. This is just what it's like to be a good human. You know what I mean? Like you said, it was a woman that kicked her out. I've seen this. It doesn't mean to say it's a male trait, and this is the thing, because it's my generation have basically treated our kids like spoiled brats, and we've forgotten all the things. And when you look back at it, and this is one of the things. I speak a lot of people in my generation. We go, oh, we love our kids, and we love it when we were back in the day and all this, and we had all the freedom. And I think, yeah, all the things we've had, we've
Mm-hmm.
substituted that with our kids with just material, and we go, well, we don't want to send our kids out because it's fear, and then
Mm-hmm.
I just try to push this forward and think, well, what do you think our kids are going to think of us in 20 years' time? And they're like, we didn't get the child. We were so afraid. And we missed out all the good things. And this ties into when I was reading a study this week. They're finding out now that kids don't give kids pills and injections that are basically just parts of the earth because they are not going out and playing in the dirt and they've lost all their immunity. I mean, what?
Right.
How weird is it? It goes back to what I'm saying. It's the silk slippers mentality, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
the best times in life. This is what I always try to say to people, and it's one of the things you wouldn't know, is that when if you'd asked me you know, in a really bad situation 20 years ago in my life, and, oh, this is the worst day of my life. But now I look back, oh, that's the best day of my life. It made me look,
Yeah.
but we don't want, we live in this culture, we're like, well, no, we want everything to be great, great, great. And some of the best times in your life are when you're in the most adverse situations,
Yep.
because you learn about yourself, because you either fall or you get up, and usually you get up and you carry on. And there's nothing better, more empowering to the human soul or the human being to go, well, I've done this and I haven't required anybody, like you said, and not your dad doing it. Like, it's the moment you get on, you ride that bike by yourself and you're like, yes, I've got these stabilizers, I'm doing it myself, and that's the greatest feeling in the world.
Skin your knee, get stung by a bee. You know, that teaches you everything. uh, hey, don't run on the sidewalk, run in the grass, and the kid be like, I'm running where I want to run, and then they fall and bust their ass, and they be like, okay, yeah, I ain't doing that streets no more. But yeah, to face adversity and have to depend on you, that's what builds us. You know, my kids don't say, hey, we hungry anymore. They get up and go in the kitchen and find something to eat. Hey, you better go hunt.
Yeah, you're right, because the worst part of that, if you don't teach them that, they get to, you know, this is the thing. I mean, it seems so obvious. It is that, but it's so obvious. But if you don't teach them that, they get to 25 and they haven't got a clue. And they're living on takeaways. They're the ones that become obese. They're the ones that, it's even if you want to argue with the most person who hasn't got the most logical sense, you go, do you realize that you're going to have to pay for that person? Eventually, it's coming out of your pocket. With,
Yeah.
you know, you have to pay for all the services that they're going to require. You have to pay extra on your flight tickets because everyone's got a fatter seat. We're all, you know, and that's the thing. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier on. It's because we live in this world where the word tolerance has just kept us all under this blanket. We're not to say anything. You know what I mean? Because I mean, that's one of the things. I mean, dude, you got this. You got this coming ahead of you. I'm lucky. My son's been through this situation. But man, the next 10, 15 years, you're sending your son through the state education system. It's a battle, and you'll come out of it with grey hairs, and you'll look like a bomber after 8 years of president, man. You're going to come out of this looking an old man, because that system, they don't want you. You know, they don't want you to sort of teach your kids this stuff. They're into this whole, no, everything's great, and it's so difficult, because you kind of feel like, well, this is my, like you were saying, it's my child, but you feel like you're in a world battle where everybody's trying to tell you things that. And you know, that's one of the things I always found when I found really hard about education, was like, I'm handing my son over, who's my precious thing, to some teacher who doesn't know shit about this thing. You know what I mean? And you think, well, wait a minute, and I don't know what their values are. I don't know anything about them. And for 8 hours a day, I'm handing it over for 15 years. It's, and this is. And I think this is what I'm saying. This is why it's so crucial that it stems back to, like you're saying, teaching your kids and stuff like that. And this goes back to what you were saying earlier on as well. That's why the ghettos were great, because you had to struggle and survive. Like you're saying, you know, when I grew up, I'm the same. When I grew up, it wasn't like, Mom, it was like, no, you have to go out and, you know, to be really real, if I'm being really real, there was times I had to go out and, you know, nick a bit of fruit and nick a bit, but that was all great. They were the greatest days in my life, going and nicking apples and nicking this and nicking that. It was brilliant, and it made you fend for yourself, which is one of the things about this is what I think about. I think maybe what is at the heart of all this social justice warriors complaining about everything is because they've been so spoiled. And it's one of the things that rich people never understand, are so jealous of the poor people, or the ghettos and stuff, because they don't understand that creativity and all that comes out of struggle. And they've had it all, and they go, well, I can't be anything. I've got I've been to the best schools, I've got the best car and all that, but I haven't got any creativity. That's the thing. How many great stuff has ever been created by the rich in the creative arts? How many great albums? How many great films? Nothing. They're all shit, because they don't understand anything. And this is what I'm saying. That's what the rich have always been obsessed about, the poor. But it's just what I'm trying to say. It goes back to what I was trying to say. We don't want to get to the point where like I say, that's the best position, because what you want for your son is, you don't want your son to be 45 and going, sitting in the ghetto and going, this is the best life ever. You want him to make the best of his life. Now, if he would
Right.
chooses to do that, but like I'm saying, it goes back to what I was saying along. We live in this culture where it's you stay there. We're team red, you're team blue,
Hmm.
and before you know it, and it's just it depresses me that we're in 2016 and that's still the mentality.
Hmm. It's no longer survival of the fittest. It's survival of who you can convince to stand in your corner. Uh, it's like you said with the movies. TV shows like Housewives of Hollywood, Beverly Hills, New York, or wherever, that fascinate rich people enough to finance that kind of stuff because it gives them a first-hand look at real life. You know, a person who never had a pair of brand name shoes doesn't act the same as a guy who's had those silk slippers all his life. You know, you can't
Mm-hmm.
play football in silk slippers. You'll hurt yourself. But that old pair of grocery store tennis shoes, you can go to church in those, fight in them, play in them, do what the hell you want to do. And that's what makes us uh, more comfortable, I guess. You probably are a philosophy buff. Two guys I want to touch on real quick. Immanuel Kant. Uh, he
Mm-hmm.
had the categorical imperative, act as if the maxim of your action would become universal law. If we stopped for a moment and even thought about that, we wouldn't do anything bad. Another guy, John Stuart Mill, uh, greatest good for the greatest number of people. So we are more into that because when we say greatest good for the greatest number of people, we're talking about the haves versus the have-nots. Let's be honest with that. Uh, to have your hands in everything, you can get this. You've never been hungry. You never had to wear dirty clothes because there's no washing machine. Things of that nature. No way you can embody a person that wore hand-me-downs, or hell, some of my best clothes my cousin wore first. When I was growing up as a kid. But that taught me when I got a new shirt to take care of it because I might have to give it to one of my cousins or something. And like I said, greatest good for the greatest number of people. That seems to be a good plan when it's executed by people who have an understanding of what the hell that man was talking about. Uh, he wasn't saying mob rule. He was just saying, hey, uh, rather than two people having chicken, everybody else eating beans, let's just make a stew of chicken and beans. Everybody get a little bit, you know. Uh, and this internet, it's there, but you have to subscribe to it. You got to get a device that does it. You have to get a fast device that does it better. You got to get a super fast device where you can split screen and talk to your buddy here and watch porn over here, without the two going and blurring together. I like talking about porn. I'm sorry.
No, no, man. I mean, and again, I think this sort of plays on to really what we're discussing, man. I mean, uh, on that very subject, I mean, you know, the great good and all that, and about how things and stuff like this. I mean, and even this touches into porn and stuff like that, man. I mean, this virtual pornography, man, that's going to change everything. And look, I mean, okay, so yeah, it's a bit of a funny one that you can have virtual porn and stuff like that. Yeah, great. But then extrapolate that. Think about it and think, okay, so what are we going to do in 10, 15, 20 years' time when what? I, as a male, don't need any females. I'm just coming home and 16. Every one of my desires is being fulfilled, and the same for the female. She's got, instead of
Mm-hmm.
some 16 stone fat ugly guy, she's got six studs sitting there waiting for her to do anything. You know, and it goes back to what we're talking about, because when you start extrapolating this and think, okay, so this isn't just a fantasy now, this shit's happening, and
Hmm.
this extrapolates, all that's happening is that going to separate us from our humanity? Is it going to separate us from love? Is this going? And that's what I'm saying, because, like you said, man, we're all men and we love porn and we love these things. That's what we're visually stimulated by. But man,
Hmm.
I mean, guys, I don't want to get all religious on your ass and stuff, man, because I'm far from religious. But it's kind of like, man, isn't the whole thing about the road to hell is paved with good intentions? And isn't
Yeah,
this, you know, man? I mean,
yeah,
it's what's the world going to be like, man? I mean, I mean, you mentioned that one because I often relate to a story I heard that when they did the first Oculus Rift in San Francisco, they had two programs going. One was a guy playing the piano, and apparently the queue for that was maybe 400 or 500 people. And the other one was the very first edition of the porn that had people queuing around the block. And that
right.
just tells you about the real nature of humanity. That, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
when I heard that, I thought, okay, now let's extrapolate that up and up and up and up and up. What world are we going to be living in 5 years' time, man?
that's a good question, man. You remember you actually had to leave your house to meet a woman. Uh, Now you can get online, create a profile, and you have hundreds of women wanting to meet you. What world is that? You know. uh,
Hmm.
but you know, I don't know where we're going. Me, I like porn. You know, back in the day we used magazines. Then we moved up to VHS, then DVDs, and now we got it 24/7. Uh, and a lot of people, whether they want to admit it or not, have their own type of porn. Whether that porn is Facebook, Sudoku, or whatever they do, it eats up a whole lot of time, for one. And second, at the end of the day, when you click that little red X, it's all gone.
Hmm.
And you go back to being that shithead who doesn't have enough money to pay his light bill and owes somebody money, and you can't call them because you don't want to tell them you don't have their money. This is
Yeah,
crazy. And virtual
yeah, man. I
reality,
mean,
you put on those headsets, man, and now she's touching you instead of touching the knucklehead in the film. Yeah, that's going places.
yeah, that's why I love to sort of contemplate these ones, because I really like to think about it, and I don't know. I mean, we're only speaking as two men. Any men could be like that, you know. I mean, fair enough. That's part of what we've been for thousands upon thousands of years, been genetically inbred to, like, visualization, and you know, that's what it is.
Mhm.
This is what, like you said, and again, we like to say we've gone from a generation of that to, you know, do everything with, again, it taught us great skills, man. When you were 14, 15 as a male, you found out skills you had inside yourself to get hold of a porno mag, and you were 14 and maybe
Mhm.
you didn't have any money. That, dude, it was some of the greatest skills ever we
Yeah,
came up with, the scams and the little things we would do, and oh, and now it's just like you say, that same kid, if I'm now 14, I can just switch on my phone. And I strap this up and up and up, because, as I say, is it going to kill humanity? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it'll be the greatest thing ever, and it'll bring human beings together,
mhm.
because we won't be stressed about sex, and we can go, okay, I'll have that, and we can concentrate on each other. I don't know, but these are questions that I don't hear this on CNN. I don't hear it on the BBC. I don't hear anyone discussing this. And everyone's
Me
like,
either.
well, you can't discuss it. But this is a real discussion. This shit
Mhm.
is going to happen. And like we say, men are men. And what do you think? That what, you know? It's the same thing. It's like it's the same. It goes back to what we say before. When you don't speak about stuff, you put your head in the sand. When you put your head in the sand, stuff still moves on. And by the
Yep.
time you put your head out the sand, it's like, oh my god, what's happened? And we're not doing this with the virtuality, and we're definitely not doing it in relation to pornography, because
Right.
it's going to be a big thing that nobody's talking about, because they're like,
Nope.
oh, we don't want to approach that, but it needs approaching.
Yeah. Pokemon, it's gonna be like Pokemon Go. These women gonna pop up on your phone, and you gonna walk around all day looking down and trying to catch these women.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I it goes back to what we're saying. I mean, it's all going to be down to, and this is why I don't think it as much as I thought about it, you can go to a nightmare dystopia, but at the end of the day, I mean, it goes. I know this is why I'm always optimistic and positive about us as a species because, like you just spoken upon, we can go on the internet now. We can finish this conversation, and I can watch anything. I can go and watch someone being beheaded, to watching a squirrel chase a cat, to hardcore put. I can watch anything I like, and yet it hasn't. And yet we're still making these communications. And I would say in anything more. I mean, we wouldn't have this conversation 10 years ago. We didn't have the ability or the inclination, So, as much as I hear all these nightmares about it's going to drive men to, become, but I think, well, isn't this is the same religious crap we heard when we grew up? That if you masturbate too much, you go blind and have hairy arms. Well,
Mhm.
I ain't got hairy arms, and I sure ain't
There you
blind.
go.
So
Yeah.
it goes back to what you were saying, because if you can start preaching stuff through whatever you want to do, and you want to say it's for tolerance, or you want to say it's for this, that, and the other, these these things get out, these memes get out into society, and before you know it, and this is what I think is hilarious. We live in a world now where, like you said, it's still as sexist as it was in the 70s, and you know what I
Mhm.
mean. But you don't hear feminists talking about that. I mean, you talk about Fox News and that, man. Every time I do watch news and stuff like that, it's the same thing. You get these tightly buttoned up guys wearing these stupid monkey suits like they're from the 50s, and you get
Mhm.
the women. Oh yeah, they've got cut blouses, short skirts, sitting
Yep.
there, and you're like, what? What the fuck? Sex sells,
Yeah.
man. Sex sells.
Yeah. It does.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
You know,
the point
other.
I'm go
Yeah.
on.
Go ahead, sir.
No, go on.
Oh, I would say, yeah. It's all about how you look. Uh, we don't rush out and get haircuts because that's the fascinating thing to do. We go get haircuts because we got to maintain a certain image. Uh, you know, and with that, the people have lost the ability to separate the two people we talked about earlier, the internal and the external fellow. And that leads to the problems in the home when you bring that work crap and that external party guy home. Or if you take the conservative, passive shithead from home to work, people will run over your ass.
Hmm.
So, but there's no course in college or anywhere else I've taken that taught you how to separate or even identify that there are two of us. Uh, I try to get my kids. I try to stay out of their way and let them grow up. But when they're doing something I consider silly, I ask them. I say, "Hey, you think that's a good idea? Because if it is, go ahead and keep doing it. Hell, I'll do it with you. But if it's not a good idea, why don't you find something else to do? That's only going to lead to another bad idea, and another and another. Don't play in fire, son. If you want to smoke a cigarette, tell me. I'll take you outside and give you a cigarette. But don't
Hmm.
try to sneak and smoke them and burn the fucking house down. you know. Again,
No.
we can't separate the two because the world is not ready to admit that we have to. Uh, the porn guy who stays watching it 10, 12 hours a day is probably the most brilliant guy at work. Helps all the women open doors but he finna go home and whack off for the next 12 hours. We just don't know, man. People even watch porn at work, knowing it's gonna get them in trouble. The
Hmm.
Ashley Madison, when that whole dating site thing was hacked and released, the amount of government addresses all over the world that were using their government account, their money making account, to get online and try to get a piece of ass. That's just funny to me.
Yeah, you're right, man. Because the not admitting it. I mean, again, this is an old parable. I mean, it's the old parable of the emperor's new clothes. Now,
Mhm.
we live in this society now, and I often dance between the two, and I look at people and go, okay, we all know the emperor hasn't got any clothes on, yet we live in a world where everyone's around telling me that he has got clothes on. Now, are they doing that because as you say, they don't want to admit it, or do they actually do that because it's in their self-interest to say he has got clothes on, and you could prove to empirically that he's naked, and they're like, no, 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 no,
Right.
and then it comes down to this team stuff, and I think this is plays a lot into this what you just said, because we're into this very thing, because it's all about what you were just saying about life itself. It's all about how some of the lessons it's only you can only well, let's be true, you can only ever learn any lesson yourself. That's the point. You can tell your kid
That's
not
it.
to smoke, he's going to
Right.
make his own mind up. You can tell it, you can and it's what I'm saying. I can prove to you that the emperor hasn't got any clothes on, but if you've got that mindset, you're going to tell me that I'm wrong and I'm an
Yep.
unbeliever and you're not
Mhm.
seeing it wrong, or I'm this and I'm that and everything else. And
Mhm.
it's that mindset you were speaking upon that I think I'm hoping that we do get over it, because to me it's a childish mentality, because we all know the emperor hasn't got any clothes on.
Right. I think we will get over it. Like anything else, I find more and more of my friends don't spank their kids, even though I witnessed some of them getting their asses busted. But it's you have to want to change, and change is not comfortable for anybody. That brand new pair of $100 pants, it's scratchy as hell at first, and until you get them comfortable. That new pair of shoes, they look great, but they hurt your damn feet until you break them in. So change is
Mm-hmm.
not comfortable, and to tell your kid, hey, don't run with scissors when everybody they hang out with runs with scissors. This your kid has to say, well, shit. Unless I see somebody get hurt, I'm either gonna keep running, or I'm gonna say, hey, the old dude might know what he's talking about, and I cut the shit out. You know. So,
Mm. And that
uh,
goes back to what you were saying, because it goes back to what you were saying. You have to be honest, and this is one of the things. You have to be honest with everybody, and that's what I'm saying. And the real part of that honesty, and this is what we were you're speaking upon, is that the real part of the honesty is going, look, we are, for whatever. I know it's blatantly obvious. We've got to this point through DNA and the nature itself. We've all got that lizard brain. We've all got that drive for pushing our genes forward. And that's why,
mhm,
and we're seeing that. We're seeing that. We were just saying we can see that on every news report, who's wearing scantily dressed and
mhm,
everything is sex sells, sex, sex. But
yep,
but it goes back to we can't rely on everybody else to be honest to our kids or to our friends. We have to be first of all honest to ourselves, and
mhm,
then honest to everybody else we know. And that means exactly what you're saying. And saying the honest truth is, hey, the person you're going to meet, the J.R.Bill I'm meeting now, ain't going to be the same J.R.Bill that's had a bad day at work and he's coming at home at night. And he's not going to be
right,
the same J.R. because that's life. And you know what it is? And that's when you real, as you said, that's the real element of compassion, because it is that kind of like knowing when to leave other people alone. Like, oh shit, he's had a bad day, and not going up to him and going, oh, I've had a really bad day, and going up to
yeah,
your face and telling you about how bad my problems are, because it doesn't solve anything. It goes back to what we were saying. It's that taking the breath. It's that moment in Germany where you go, take a chill out moment. I mean, and this is what we've got to do. And you only get this back to when you're honest. And that honesty is being
yep,
really honest. And not the same that we're all just, let's all slap ourselves on the back and say, ain't life great? And let's all go through it. No, no. Life is ups and downs and roundabouts, and
yep.
it starts with being honest. And that's what that's how we break the chain. We be honest with everyone we possibly can.
And that hurts people's feelings, though. Uh, and people get defensive real quick. How dare you talk about me, and how dare you comment on that, and I can comment on what I want to comment on. Shit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be around me, don't be around me. But then that starts that divisiveness. Now we back on the red team versus the blue team. Uh, so I guess the only happy medium is porn. You know.
No, no. I mean, it's again, it comes back down to, and this is back sort of around to why I have so much respect for, and I've told you this before, for you to get up on the stage and do this, because it's the old George Orwell one. Inside every joke, there's a seed of a revolution.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and this I think one of the greatest honest things that we need to be telling everybody, and particularly your kids and people around you. And this is like, do you know what, you sometimes you've got to stand up and just say it, and not be, and it's the old thing, don't be, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me. And
Right.
that is where that's why I love flying the flag for people and pushing as much as I can for people like you, because to me you're the, and you're the heroes of our generation. And you know, the great thing is, and this is what I always say, when your kid's you know, he's got to my age, if you're still around when you're sitting there in your rocking chair, he's going to go, oh, do you know what, my dad did something back in the day. He wasn't the guy who's just sitting there watching the Kardashians and beating up people. My dad
Right.
did something. He got up, he did something. And do you know what, history will always remember us. And that, you know, as we
Mm-hmm.
remember our grandparents and we look back at them, so
Mm-hmm.
our kids are going to look at us, man. And this is the great thing about the times we live in. It goes back to what you're saying. We can either use the internet to go out and be negative, or we can use it to be positive. But I
Right.
tell you what, for hell, sure, it may not get, like you were saying earlier on. Hey, I might not get in the same amount of viewers as, you know, Fox News right now. But do you know what? It's all about the, you know, I'd rather have no viewers and send that positivity than get a million viewers and for shitting on somebody. And that is simple
Mm-hmm.
as, and that's being honest. And that's what we need to be teaching people: honesty. And honesty means you can get up and be savage on the stage. Honesty means I can say anything I like. Honesty means that.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is I don't get my fist out and smack you because you disagree with me. We walk away and go, oh, okay, we've had a different opinion. Or maybe if
Mm-hmm.
we're really a bit wise and go, oh, maybe what he's done is shaped my thinking, because that's what we were all about.
Right.
Because ultimately, I don't give a fuck. Nobody's got the ultimate knowledge. We're all just
No.
monkeys in the dark, prodding at the void and going, okay, what's out there? None of us know anything. And
Mm-mm.
that's what I love, because it's what real conversation is about. This is the element, and this goes back. This conversation here, dude, could be exactly the same as what two guys are having in Africa tonight around the fire, and they're
Yep.
talking about shit. And that's through that, like it will be, like it will be for me. I'll go away for the rest of this week now, and there'll be things I'll be thinking about that you said, and I'm like, oh, okay. And this is what life's about, and it's questioning everything and being honest, and that's exactly the root of what you just said.
And being honest enough with yourself to say, hey, you know what? Uh, Tim has a point. This, and this. I don't quite agree with it, but it does make sense.
Mm.
And if that's what he's living, I gotta accept that. You know, I can't go out on a tangent just because me and Tim don't get along. Uh, you know, but when I see Tim, I'm gonna wave at him, and if he don't wave back, I don't give a shit because I did my part. You know,
Mm-hmm.
hey shithead, how you doing? You know, funny. Something I question sometimes though uh, is I only have a handful of good friends, uh, and they know that the me on stage is the 180-degree me. Uh, I don't write anything. I don't prepare anything. I just say what comes to mind, and they know on a regular basis I would never do that. You know, everything's kind of calculated, politically correct sometimes. You know, but on that stage, whether they like you or they don't, you can say what the hell you want to say. You can get nasty and hurt people's feelings, or you can talk about the workplace, something everybody has in common. You know, it's touch and go. Every now and then, I do like to tell a rotten, terrible story. You know, uh, but that makes me feel good to do that. You're gonna go home and forget I said the shit unless it just stuck with you anyway. You know, so and I'm not gonna hit you in the face. So you know,
Well, yeah, and this is what I'm saying. This is what I've always sort of said. I think of anything the comedians that are on a at the stage of their own in that sense, even above the musicians and all the rest of them, because you have the ability to go out there, like you said, and just go and just fire out any thought you like. And the great thing about that is you have that ability and you have the bravery to do it. And and like you said, because all that is go all that happens by doing that is it makes people together, because it's like one of the things, it goes back to what we were saying earlier on. You know, if you went to my great grandfather or your grandfather, when they're in the trenches, yeah, they'll be ripping the shit out of each other, because that's what it's about. It gets you through the brotherhood of life, and that's is what we've forgotten in our times. And that's what I think is great about people like yourself. And it's all the times, it's kind of things, you know, kind of stems into what we're saying. I don't want that to be done. That's why I fight against anyone that says, right, I know we know, like it is with particular comedians. And I think they're feeling the brunt of this at the moment. They're feeling the first wave of this whole, you know, what you can say, what you can go. You know, I mean, Chris Rock has come out and said he won't do college tours because it's too. You know, they've been asking what he's saying. I mean, that's Chris Rock, man. And it's
Yeah,
like, this is so dangerous, because it
it
leads
is.
to war.
It does, and you know that's the thing. All this good technology, the same type of programming that allows you and I to talk right now and see each other, is the same shit they dropping missiles on people with. Uh, no different. It's like you said. It's all about application, how you use it, what you the atmosphere you set. You know, uh, I could not imagine if the internet went away tomorrow. I'd be pissed. I'd be one mad cookie if the internet went away tomorrow. The hell with that. Uh, but that is a reality. You know, they banned Pokemon Go in Iraq or Iran or somewhere. Uh, they don't want people just milling around aimlessly. It's what they said, but you know they have a lot of restrictions there anyway. But uh, again, it's all perspective, man. And as long as you keep spreading the positive message, it's going to reach 1 ear, 2 ears, 4 ears. It's going to keep growing, man.
Well,
It's
this
gonna
is,
keep
yeah.
growing.
I mean, yeah, and this is the greatest, and that's, you know, this is why these are the greatest days of living, because, you know, look at this very conversation. You know that you know, if it hadn't been for this internet, we wouldn't be speaking. If it hadn't been for the internet, I wouldn't have heard about you. About you with that, this, you know, I wouldn't have stemmed the thoughts off in me. That wouldn't have, and it's all just dump, step connection, step connect. And that's what I'm saying. This is why these are the greatest days to live in. And as much as that's what I love about even this conversation. We've seen all the duality of everything, but we're still talking, and we're still, you know, distances that have been, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that have been travelled in this conversations, and it's, to me, that's what I'm saying. That's why I always say it's a great stage, because just to have this kind of conversation, man, this was a dream to me 10 years ago, 15 years ago when I was growing up.
Right.
This is perfect, and it goes back to what you said before. This is all just going on. It's what we do with it, and how we do with that. There isn't any follow J.R.Bill. Don't follow me. Don't follow anyone else. Follow yourself and wake up. And this is what
Mm-hmm.
I find inspiring about what you do, and I find inspiring about where we are with this technology, because we can just get that message put out more and more and more, that don't follow me, do it yourself. Like you said to your kid,
Mm-hmm.
no, like, you know, Bugs Bunny. It was there in Bugs Bunny. Do it yourself.
Right. There you go. And to set those examples or to set your own precedents, that's really what it's about. You know, no one knows your back hurts but you. You know, no doctor can tell you your back doesn't hurt. That's bullshit. You know. So with that amount of powerful knowledge, we can make a difference, man. One person at a time. I promise. Uh,
Yeah.
Cause I tell people about you allowing me to come on your show, and they was like, get the fuck out of here. I was like, nah, man. It's a cat across the world that really want to talk to me, you know.
Well, dude, I mean, look, I mean, as I say, I'm gonna be crashing this thing. You know, we're gonna finish this podcast in a few minutes' time. But man, it's been a great conversation. I think we kind of delved a few areas. We may not have solved everything, but I feel we've gone, you know, answered a sort of few questions like that. So, you know, before we do sort of wrap this up, man, a couple of things. One, have you got any shows coming up, and particularly for anyone listening out there who's going to be your part of the world, or any sort of particular thing you want to fly a flag for at the moment?
Okay. Right now, I hadn't planned a show. I'm in the planning process of attempting to get one done before the end of the month. But I would want to say to everyone, be funny, if only to you, Be funny. You matter. Uh, and because you matter, people are looking. The people that don't like you are looking. The people that love you are looking. The people who want to learn from you are looking. Uh, be funny. Nobody can be mad with a guy with a smile on his face 24/7. Hard to do.
Exactly. And the other thing, obviously your next show, this is just a plea from here over in Scotland, man. I would love to have you record it, even if it's just 15, 20 minutes, because I really think that can be put out on the internet and, get to see the world. Because at the moment, you go to find you and you're just little clips of you, or maybe 30 seconds. But I would be great if you could just film the show. And man, I would just, even if it's just for me over here in Scotland, because until the day I get to fly over and see you, dude, that's the only way I've got to see your comedy. So
All right. Hey,
go on.
I'm gonna do one better. We'll talk later behind the scenes, but I'm going to actually give you the links to my actual DVD, and you'll have it.
Oh, sweet, cool. Well, man, and again, before we do sort of finish this off, dude, where can people find you? Where can they? Where can they reach out?
Okay. J.R.Bill.info is the website, and from there, everything else. My I don't know, Facebook and all that old crap. I sort of check it, sort of don't check it. So jrbill.info is where you want to go.
Sweet, man. Well, dude, as always, my brother, it's been an insightful, erudite conversation as always, man. And I look forward to when we pick this up again, man.
All right.
But yeah, from me over here in fine old Scotland, and from there over in Georgia, man, it's life is people.
My man.
Yeah, life is people. Life is people, people.